Hey,
Welcome,
everybody.
welcome. So let's do a little bit of recap. No, we don't have stats because it's going to be hidden. We will tell you the winners of the dating dive. That'll be later on this today. When Alesh will join us. I think, Kathy, what is that? That's around 6 p.m. Eastern time. I think that Alesh does that. So, no, we don't even know the stats. So you can bribe us with all the chocolate that you have, and we will not be able to answer any questions for you about who's winning, how many have you done so far, or anything like that. And for Heat 1, congratulations. You guys are rocking through it. So keep going. And guess it's time for Heat 2. Heat 2, you're up, ready to go. Everybody got their drink, their snacks, their wrist all ready, and their fingers ready to date dive. So
And what time does Heat 1 end?
Heat 1 ends at 6 a.m. Eastern time.
6 a.m. Okay.
It's like 4 hours.
Yeah, we got a little bit to go.
Yeah,
So let me remind everybody, including myself, I'm Heat 1. What are you guys? Kathy, David, Darren?
1.
1. Okay, so we're all 1. You're looking at all 1. And for you guys that are in the chat, give us a shout out. Tell us who your team. What team are you and what heat are you? And also, how's it going? So this has been an interesting day for me. I don't do a lot of dating on WikiTree, and it's not as fast as, say, the Connect-a-thon. Like, no, it's not. So it does take a little bit of time to dig in.
Yeah, I do the Friday date night, the Zoom calls every other week. And once we're done with the Zoom call, then we go and we start our dating. Some of us are lucky if we can get 3 or 4 profiles in, because it can take so long. And I'm actually doing pretty well today. So
I'm glad you mentioned that. So for those of you that are in Heat 1, and if you think that it's been going slow, or you think maybe you haven't done enough, you should be doing a lot more or a lot faster. Date diving is not a speed trial here. It's going to be a slow and steady kind of thing. If you want to compare it to the Olympics, you're not doing the track and field. You're probably doing more what Kathy watched during the Olympics. She said you watched the shooting, whereas a little bit more slower and accurate pace that you're looking at.
Or the marathons where they're running, what's it, the 26 kilometers or whatever it is. So
26 miles, 42 Ks.
So Sandy, you said you had been had more success with Ancestry. Are you using Sorcerer?
I am. I'm using Sorcerer, and I don't know why I'm having more success with Ancestry. I don't know if it's just the search functions for family search or Find a Grave, or just not finding it.
Are you picking names that are more obscure?
I'm working off the state of Georgia, no birth and no death dates, and I'm just taking it from page 1. I've had Mrs. Unknown that I was able to find because her husband was not unknown. So that I was able to find. But I will tell you, if you are doing the sourcing, and I'm going to say probably the locating next weekend, but the sourcing and the date diving, if you're doing that, I swear by Sorcerer's merge edit feature. Swear by it, because what you can do is you can grab all the sources from Ancestry, say, or Family Search, use Sorcerer's merge edit feature, and it will add in the locations, the dates, and the sources kind of all at once for you, and saves a step. I think so. Reach out to me afterwards if you got any questions about it. I'm on Discord. I'm hanging out also in the games chat over on Discord too. But I swear by it's so quick and easy. But yeah, I don't know. So what are you guys out there in the chat? Are you finding it easy to find the dates on, say, your particular location's source repository or Family Search? Is it Ancestry? Is it Find a Grave? You know, where are you finding your best luck at locating the correct person to get the sources and the dates. Share your tips. So, Kathy, you do this. Darren, you do Friday night date night a lot too, right? Both of you?
I actually joined my first Zoom call yesterday. But I dabble on adding dates. And, I've been using Family Search to find families and sort of hopefully finding profile. Oh, Family Search profile has got dates. Oh, let's verify that.
What area are you working in? Are you still in Luxembourg?
No, I'm not going to try Luxembourg again. Yeah, but no, I've been doing New Zealand and I've done a WikiTree search and done 4 pages. And some of them I've found dates and some of them I haven't.
Oh my gosh, 4 pages is awesome. I'm on my 2nd page and I've been going for how long?
Yeah.
Do you find that you're finding mostly on Family Search or elsewhere? And where are you located? Where are you dating at?
I'm working on the Hayer, I guess, Jedcom, doing the suggestion 133 and 134, like, which are the no dates, but there's dates on relatives.
Yeah.
So the dates on relatives are in Family Search, so I can get in that way. But there are some that they don't have it. So I do Ancestry. I find a record on Ancestry. Then I use Sorcerer to search Family Search.
Yep, that's what I do too.
And I could, because ever since Family Search did the changes they did a year or 2 ago, I have really crappy luck finding stuff on Family Search. Even using Sorcerer, it's hard. So I have to go in through Ancestry in order to find it.
And I find that if I go to Find a Grave and find a grave, I can almost always zero in instantly from Find a Grave to Family Search or from Find a Grave to Ancestry using Sorcerer as well. So those are kind of our tips that we've been using and working around. David, do you use Ancestry?
Yes.
You do, right?
Yeah, I almost exclusively use Ancestry.
Now, I remember way back in the day, I think, we had Source-a-thons kind of before we had the Connect-a-thons. And I remember way back in the day, and this was before Sorcerer, so I'm dating myself, I guess. We had to manually go and dig and look, and we didn't have the easy shareable sources that Sorcerer gives us for Ancestry. And a lot of people used to get really upset that people would just do the link, the URL, instead of the share. But now with Sorcerer, it's pretty easy just to grab everything all at once. And this is a good point. I'm glad you mentioned this, Sue, using Ancestry because it's familiar. And I think that's the key. Use something that you're familiar with, and that'll make it go a little bit quicker, a little bit easier. And, see what you come up with. And then
you don't want to be learning a new platform in the middle of a challenge.
No, not at all. And Family Search flows ahead to make sure to pick a location from the drop-down to make sure the place exists in their database. That's a really good point as well, because sometimes when you get these profiles that don't have locations and don't have dates, we sometimes don't know who they are. And we were laughing beforehand, before we started, like a John Smith. If we don't have a location and date, that's really tricky. But it's really interesting because we were also talking about, we keep having to change people's names. So the profile name ends up not truly being their real name. It might be their nickname or, a variation of the name. And I know, Kathy, you and I have really run into that a lot. And Darren and David, have you run into that a lot?
With the profiles I was working on earlier, it wasn't so much that the names were wrong, but they were a Chinese American family.
Oh yeah, you got to.
It was about how they were entered. It's not a right and wrong matter. It's just whoever entered them different than how somebody else might enter them versus how I entered them. So finding the right last name, and when you don't know the language, and you've got a first, middle, and last name, but you don't know what order they're supposed to be in, it can be challenging.
And I know Shelley is in the audience as well, and she was sharing with us over in Appalachia chat how she had to change a couple names to variations. Has plenty of sources to back up the change that she made. So it's really interesting. We're dealing with old profiles. Most of these, have been around for a while. And I think that because we don't have the things like Sorcerer and WikiTree B to kind of bring the data in on an accurate basis, I think that's where we get tripped up sometimes with the names. And then I don't know where these names are getting confused from GEDCOMs. Is it just bad ancestry trees? I don't know.
A combination of stuff.
It's people using their nickname. So they use Addie instead of Adeline. And so they're entered as Addie, but their birth name was Adeline. So, I had to change a few. Kathy is not my legal full name.
I used to do tax preparation for H&R Block several years back. And the number one error people make on their tax return is their name. Their own name. Because it has to match your social security card here in the United States. Mm-hmm. It has to match your social security card. And women get married and they don't change it, or they thought they changed it and they didn't, or they use a nickname, or they go by their middle name. And
guilty.
It's amazing how many people get that first question wrong.
Yeah.
And this is true. Not all records include the middle names, even though the families give them. So I'm finding that when I'm dating these profiles, I am sourcing, I am changing the names, maybe as Sue said, giving them their full names, maybe the full locations instead of it just saying Georgia, giving them Atlanta, Georgia, or something like that. I'm finding this state diving is multifaceted cleanup per profile. It really is. So we had a couple things that we were talking about trivia, and we were going to share them with you guys because we're talking about dates, right? We're going to talk about dates. So does anybody want to guess? And no, I already told you guys, so you can't. Anybody want to guess what the oldest known written date is? And let's just make it easy. And we're going to tell you it's BC. So how far back BC? I think we were all shocked at this.
I don't even remember what you said.
That's because we're heat one and our brain has already been working.
Well, do you any guesses on the location either?
Yeah.
I don't know if you're going to guess the date, but
the location. Great.
Yeah. That would give you a clue about how far back it might be.
I would have got this wrong. I can't believe how far back it was. I would have definitely got this wrong. And it's written without BC. Well, that's kind of funny because David was joking about this.
I raised the same point.
That was the same point. He goes, but they didn't know it was BC. We kind of helped them out with that, and we improved their date. And I agree. Chinese records do go way back. And while you guys are guessing on that real quick, if you take a guess on the location as well as the date. So since we're talking also about Chinese records, there's a little information. The Chinese calendar, the Chinese lunar calendar, is based on the cycles of the moon and is used to determine the dates of their festivals and holidays. Which makes sense if you've ever seen any of their festivals in particular. That makes perfect sense. And then so let me tell you, the oldest known written date is on a Babylonian clay tablet from around 1800 BC. And I would have guessed BC, and that's about as far as I would have gotten. as that. And since we're also talking about dates, the longest day of the year, the summer solstice, and I guarantee you, I bet you Shelley would get this. Listen on it, but happens around June 21st, and then the shortest day, the winter solstice, is around December 21st. Okay, so let's answer a question. Does it count if there is a date in the record, but the needs death record in the profile and no source? So you put the source in. Let me read this again, Ruth. Does it count if there's a date in the record, but the needs death record is in the profile and no
So
source?
the categories in the profile?
Yeah, I'm confused just a bit. If there's no date on the profile and there happens to be a source already on the profile, I think maybe, am I saying? Then you can add the date and get credit for adding the date.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go up a couple of posts from hers. Amanda said the earlier kickoff said about adding that one. Yes, I had that issue earlier and I know better and I still did wrong. And Darren actually answered my question and said,
Yeah, I didn't even realize it was you asking
yeah,
it.
if you have to add the WikiTree admin category because the person is still living, he said go to the drop down and check the challenge tracker and first mark it before you save it. I haven't tried it because I haven't come across another one that way, but thank you, Darren.
Yeah, those are good tips. Those are great tips. So if you do have that living one, mark it from the drop down.
Yeah.
As what source you're adding, and then go finish updating the profile.
Yes, because once you save it and they're living, you will not get that drop down menu to choose the tracker.
Poof, it's gone from your view.
It's gone. Yeah.
It's gone. So you won't get. Okay, so help me out. So Ruth says it's as a category. There's no source, but there's a date. Is my understanding that you have to have a source to use the date, or you can't count it? Was that
my interpretation of the question is that there's a date. Yeah, there's a date, but there's no source.
Yeah.
So does it count?
The date is there, but there's no source. She's adding the source.
Yeah. I wouldn't count it for dating, but I'd count it for sources challenge.
Yeah.
Challenge.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Because
that's
the
how
goal is no dates on the profile. That's a really good question, Ruth. But I need to also point out something that Azure pointed out on the opening ceremonies. Well, that was brilliant. You know, this is kind of an honor system as well, and we're trusting you guys to use your judgment. There's, you know, if you have a profile that has, you know, 1 million sources and it's dated, and then you add a source, and then you go and you click it and say, hey, I added the death source, even though it was already dated and already sourced, WikiTree's not going to go and check all that information was there. They're kind of trusting you by that tracker button. So I love Az's advice, you know, use your best judgment as well. It's okay. And I will guarantee you that all of us have forgotten to click that tracker button several times. You know,
yeah,
I think it all comes out in the wash, as we like to say.
Going back to Amanda's, if you happen to add the WikiTree admin category and you don't use the drop down menu before you save it and it goes poof, I just used another profile in order to get that point. It had an about year, and I found a more exact date and the source, so I used that one to make up for the living one that I wasn't able to do.
And then Ruth, just to kind of talk about this a little bit. So thank you for adding the source, for adding the death record into the source, and then you could take out that category. So thank you, because there you go.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was going to say. You're helping the tree, and that's the main thing with this. We're, at the previous LiveCast, Azure mentioned it, and Kathy was talking to us about it before we became live. The whole reason we're doing dating and locating, those two, specifically those two, is to prevent duplicates. Sources are good and connecting's good, but the whole reason why we want to make sure that all profiles have dates and locations is to help with the duplicates. So, Ruth, you're doing a great job. That's the main thing. And we're not even going to make you fall down away from your computer in laughter tonight, because it's not midnight. So there's no midnight madness.
We're past midnight.
Oh, wow. And 10 unknowns. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah, there's one JCOM there. I did about 20 sort of before we started. Just delete, because they all would have all been sort of born in the 1950s. So it's like, they're probably still alive.
Yeah.
And they had no names.
I'm glad you mentioned that too, because I had come across that about an hour ago when I was debating. And I said, no, when they were around 1970, they would have been alive. And I said, no, let's just be safe. I'd rather go ahead and assume they're still alive for their privacy. So I'm glad you mentioned that, Darren. If you do see that they were born to a point where they're probably still alive, let's give them privacy and put that WikiTree admin cat on.
Yeah, I did do a merge earlier. It didn't have a first name. It just had a last name. And no information, no family members, even looking at the changes log to see if anyone had changed it since it had been imported. Nothing at all. So I found another profile with the last name that was an orphan, adopted both of them, did the merge, and then re-orphaned it.
And that's a good point. If you do have to make corrections to the last name and it needs adopted, obviously, unless you're the PM, you can't do that. So if you adopt a profile to change the last name, my case, I had a lot of unknowns. The women were unknowns, so I needed to give them a last name. I found sources to give them a last name because they matched the husband in the children's line. You don't have to keep those profiles. You can go ahead and orphan them again after you figure that out.
And these were both men, so the surname was the same, so it was just merge it in real quickly. So you can also do that if you look and can't find anything like that. It is okay to merge it into another profile with the same last name.
And then Ruth is right. The problem with living is that if you add them, you cannot take their name off because it has to have a manager. So that's a good case as well. Okay, so you, anybody in chat have any questions? If you are in Heat 1, feel free share any tips that you have to the Heat 2 who started 24 minutes ago. And let them know any tips that you may have. We share kind of our tips or what we've been doing. I think the biggest thing to know is this is not a super fast day. This is one of those ones where you're going to have to dig in and do a little bit of research and, go and look and find things. So don't get discouraged. It takes a little bit more time than it will. And this will be the last event for this weekend. And then next weekend, there will be, and Darren reminded me, it's going to be connecting and locating, right, Darren?
Yeah, I can't remember which order it is. I think it's connecting first.
Connecting's first and then locating.
Connecting, just like the Connect-a-thon.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that'll be next weekend. Same principle, same idea, same time frames. Heat 1 will go first, Heat 2, Heat 3. And I did get this question too, and I'm not sure why. Everybody has the same amount of hours. It's a 10-hour shift that each heat has to complete the task. We do not know the scores. We will not know the scores. The only thing that we will know is the sourcing we found out from Alesh. We will know the date diving from Alesh later on this evening. We will know the locating, but I think the very last thing, or whatever the first one is next weekend, but I think they hold off on the last event to kind of keep it a surprise, because at the closing ceremony, they will tell you which teams got the gold, silver, bronze, as well as individuals for each one. So that's pretty much how we find out. Darren, you had a really good idea, though. You were kind of counting. You were working one particular category of alone, and you could count how many changes were made in that category to know how many you did.
Yeah. Can't exactly do that with date diving, though.
Yeah.
Well, at least I haven't worked it out just yet.
Yeah, you'd have to have a category that gets deleted.
Now, I do know somebody's counting their contributions. That's one way to do it. But I do a lot of edits per profile, a lot of saves. So I think that would be kind of difficult for me to do. I don't know. We'll see. And then the next live cast will be the 8 a.m. live cast. I got that right, I think. Will be the 8 a.m. webcast. And that will start Heat 3. So Heat 3 is probably still asleep right now. And Heat 1, you got a couple more hours to go. Heat 2, you have got 9.5 hours to go. And remember, every little bit that you do helps your team to either get one of the top 3 spots, the gold, the silver, or the bronze. That's the goal, right? To get your team there. So I guess that's pretty much it from us. What do you guys think? You guys got anything?
Yeah. That's all good. Just date.
Date. I like that. Okay, guys. Go ahead, Gabby.
Ruth said she took Monday off for nothing. No, you have a vacation day to chill out and not do anything.
Oh, Ruth's going to be on WikiTree. I just know it.
Yeah.
I just know it. Okay, guys. We will see you a little bit later on. The next webcast has the early crew. We're the late night crew. So we're all going to get back to dating and hang out with Heat 2. So everybody, have a good time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.